welcome back to episode 43 of Winning the Division. I am your co-host, Ryan Smith, alongside former NFL tight end Benjamin Troupe. Let's start, Ben, here with first things first. But as I start that, let me just remind you that for the latest of Carolina Panthers and NFL news, you can subscribe to the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, powered by the Fans First Sports Network. Keep Pounding brings you the latest news, analysis, and interviews from top-rated players, announcers, studio leads, and more. Rate and subscribe to your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to the video channel, youtube.com/Tobacco Radio. Well, Ben, here on First Things First, the Raiders punter news. A.J. Cole reaching a 4-year, $15 million extension with the Las Vegas Raiders. Highest paid punter in the NFL. Reaction to that on First Things First.
I mean, the Raiders are obviously showing love, and the guy that's obviously, when you talk about punters and you talk about the fact their value when it comes to what they bring to the table, the Raiders are saying, look, man, you do right by us, we'll do right by you. And every other punter in the league, they got to be looking around saying, wait a minute, we getting $15 million, man. I mean, they willing to give us that much money per year? Absolutely. Get it done. I mean, it's all about the hang time. Congratulations to that man.
Aiden Hutchinson from the Lions, he's cleared for a full return, missed most of last season, as we know, last year with his torn, I believe it was torn ACL, if I'm not mistaken, or something with his knee. So he's cleared for full return.
That's going to be dangerous for the competition when you look at what the Lions was able to do in his absence, Smitty, which lets you know, too, I think it was good for both parties. One, because it shows the Lions are a good team without Aiden Hutchinson. They're a great team with him. And sometimes, man, you need one player to help get you over the hump. Aiden Hutchinson being cleared for full contact is dangerous for everybody in that division, everybody outside that division, everybody in the league. That man is going to be back. And dare I say, you adding a key component, not just to the defense, but to the team as a whole.
And let's keep going here. Wide receiver Garrett Wilson on his future, hopeful to be a Jet for life. Interesting. He wasn't saying this last year with Aaron Rodgers there, but with Justin Fields there, it seems like he's suddenly changing his tune. Thoughts on Garrett Wilson?
Having somebody like Justin Fields in the building, two guys that obviously played together at Ohio State, it brings a new energy to the building. And I think it was less about Aaron Rodgers, maybe more about the atmosphere with the Jets. I mean, Devontae Adams came with it. It was all about Devontae Adams and reuniting with Aaron Rodgers. But sometimes, Garrett Wilson want to get back to being that true number one, and he wants to be the reason why the Jets are not a laughing stock, but a team that's trying to contend, maybe on the outside looking in for the playoffs, man, but definitely trying to contend for that division. We'll see what happens, but it's happy to see that young man saying those right things. But we'll see come contract time, because everybody want to be, a Jet for life, a Falcon for life, a Panther for life, and then they start getting them numbers that they try to do, them team-friendly numbers. But Garrett Wilson, one of the best young receivers in the league. It's happy to see him getting back to just not just playing good football, but being in the right frame of mind.
How about Ben Johnson saying he loves having along the Chicago Bears in this kind of purgatory that Chicago has been in for such a short period of time? So Ben Johnson.
I lost you that first one. What'd you say he liked being?
Loving the chance to turn around the Bears' kind of purgatory at quarterback. Ben Johnson.
He's right though. I mean, he's not mincing words. And Ben Johnson likes a challenge. Obviously, being the former offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, he believed in what Coach Dan Campbell was doing. But Chicago, I mean, real similar to the Washington Commanders quarterback situation. They haven't had a quarterback. The last time they had a more than decent quarterback was old sexy Rexy Grossman, who took them to the Super Duper Bowl, lost to Peyton Manning and company, but that's back in the early 2000s. So, yeah, purgatory, I don't know if I would have used that word, but he is a head coach. He can say what he wants. Caleb Williams, you definitely have your work cut out for you, young man.
How about Brock Purdy? Happy that his new deal lets the 49ers build around him. He could have taken more, took a little less to let the 49ers build around him. Thoughts on Brock Purdy's new deal, and does this really let the 49ers build around him?
I think it does. I mean, when you look at what he got, he didn't reshape the market. Usually when a quarterback is coming on his second contract, they usually reshape the market. But listen, I mean, he still broke the bank. Let's just put that out there. Still got his money, but Brock Purdy is thinking about, he understands how much of a benefit he is being on a team like the San Francisco 49ers, who definitely look a lot different since he got there. So when you talk about how different the defense look, and he knows, look, a healthy C-Mac, a healthy Brian Ayuk, a healthy George Kittle, a healthy Trent Williams, a healthy Ricky Pearsall and company is going to help him. but he's thinking about the future and the present. He's the highest, he's the highest paid on the team, obviously, but he is trying to think. Fred Warner got his money, George Kittle got his money. I think Trent Williams might want to restructure deal or a new deal, but he's thinking about the guys around him. Got to keep everybody happy. Can't keep everybody happy, but at least he's trying to take a cap friendly deal that can help future guys get their money as well.
And then finally, Cardinals Sean Murphy Bunting, formerly of the Buccaneers back in the day, out for the 2025 season after being placed on the NFI list, will not account against the 90-man roster for the Cardinals.
Unfortunately, this is what happens throughout the offseason, whether we're getting ready for mini camps, training camps. You got to count healthy bodies going to camp. It's unfortunate, Smitty, but this is going to happen. Sometimes it's non-football injury type stuff, and I haven't read the report to see actually what happened, but it happens, and you rather it happen now so you can kind of fill that void right now for bringing in guys not just for mini camp and training camp, but hey, unfortunately, the National Football League is about healthy bodies. Can't make the club in the tub. Hopefully, that man gets back sooner rather than later.
I should have said second to last. Now this is the last as we bring in our guest here in just a second. We're going to turn to the city of Indianapolis on this last headline, and our Colts beat writer, Destin Adams, our guest, will be joining us in just a second. Peyton Manning, after the death of Jim Irsay, out here in much more detail, says Jim Irsay turned Indianapolis into a football city. So many others remembering owner Jim Irsay.
I agree. I mean, Jim Irsay was very, very honest, though, with his time with Peyton Manning. Someone asked him, how would you look at your, career or tenure with Peyton Manning? He said, love Peyton and love what he did, but it was a failure on my part because we went to 2 Super Bowls, won one, lost one. We had arguably the best player in football for 14 years. That is, and Tony Dungy, shout out to Tony Dungy, who also has some, incredible words about Jim Irsay, saying, look, give me an opportunity to be, African-American head coach, to be the first African-American head coach to win a Super Bowl in the National Football League. Played against his best friend, Howie, Lovie Smith at the time. Jim Irsay, the one thing they said about him that's glowing about from the players' perspective was, Smitty, he didn't try to get in nobody's way. He's the owner. Look, I trust my head coaches. I trust my, general managers. He let the guys he employed do the job. Wasn't trying to do too much. You hear that? You hear what happens, Jerry Jones? When you have your owner, separate from the GM. I'm just saying it works. But
I hear you.
My condolences to the Irsay family. They did turn Indy into, because like I said, and it didn't work out this way, but you went from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck. And obviously Andrew Luck retired a lot. That's the biggest what if or what could have been. But yeah, man, Irsay, when I was with the Titans, man, the Colts were the class of the AFC South. Like, you couldn't beat them. Peyton Manning, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Joseph Adai, you know what I'm saying? So I just think that when you think about what Irsay meant to the city of Indy, to the NFL, he will definitely be missed, no doubt.
And now let's go ahead and bring in our guest on that topic. Please be joined tonight by Destin Adams, Colts beat writer, NFL Draft Analyst for A-to-Z, also a Pro Football Writers member as well. And we'll bring in Destin Adams to the show. Destin, if you can hear us, how's it going, buddy?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you. I'm not sure if you were able to catch that last point there. We were talking about Jim Irsay, his life in the city of Indianapolis. So thank you so much for joining us, Destin. We'll just start there. Obviously, I'll just kind of give you a broad strokes question. What has been the temperature in the city of Indianapolis this past week with the death of owner Jim Irsay and just kind of the reaction to the town of Indianapolis?
Yeah, I think every time there's loss, there's going to be a different temperature for everybody and how each person mourns. I think you've seen in the people that were impacted by Jim, it's just been remembering just all the great things that he was able to do for the city of Indianapolis, whether that is through owning the Colts and bringing the Colts here, and how you guys talked about what Peyton says and making it a football town. When people hear Indiana, they think basketball. It's the home of basketball. You've heard that from Naismith himself. And football was really just like an afterthought for so long. So the Colts come here. They're still an afterthought with the Colts here. And then obviously the Peyton Manning era starts, and the Indianapolis culture really just gathered around the sport of football. And it's just grown over time. And people want to say that Lucas Oil Stadium is the stadium that Peyton built, and that's completely accurate. But the foundation of the Colts being here, the foundation of the Colts being a household name in this city, that's Jim Irsay. Jim Irsay laid the foundation, and Peyton Manning built it brick by brick. Is kind of how I like to look at it. And I think remembering all the great things that Irsay was able to do for this city and these people, I think those are the things that are going to live on forever.
And Destin, when you think, I mean, even you look at the Colts now. You look at, we talked about it. You go from, when I played, in Peyton Manning's heyday. I mean, those guys were. I mean, I'm just saying that the way they played football, it was just beautiful to watch. I had to remember, hey man, I'm going up against these guys. And you go from Peyton, then you talk about Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, retires in preseason. It still sent shockwaves throughout the NFL. The quarterback carousel that has been since both of those guys have left, is it more pressure on these guys to step in and be a franchise changer like the two guys we saw before? Or are these guys really given a real chance to go out there and say, hey, man, I'm not Peyton. I'm definitely not Andrew Luck. I am Anthony Richardson. I am Daniel Jones. What type of pressure do you think those guys are under? And what is the city's expectation of those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're going from Peyton to Luck, and then who's going to be next, I mean, those two names are going to be mentioned with whoever is playing quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts forever. And if someone ever finally hits and becomes that next name, they'll join that list. I think that's for every organization. The Colts just happen to have two really good options that they can go ahead and look at. I think what helps in that situation a little bit is, and should they have done this? No, but the amount of time that it took from the Colts losing Andrew Luck in that shocking way in retirement to drafting a quarterback high, like I think there was enough time there that it may not be as much of a comparing apples to apples in terms of Luck to Anthony Richardson, right? Because there's just so many names that you can now bring up after Luck, with the Carson Wentz, the Phillip Rivers, the Matt Ryan, the Jacoby Brissett. They threw so many different guys out there that now, whether they meant to do it or not, there is those names that you can also look at in comparison that I think probably softens that a little bit. But I mean, I think the big thing here is they've been looking for the replacement to Andrew Luck since that shocking retirement. They've tried multiple different options. None of them have been long-term fixes. And you can probably make the argument that only Phillip Rivers was a successful season in terms of replacing. And they haven't really been able to even find an equivalent to that sense. So this year is going to be a make or break year for Anthony. I don't think it's about measuring up to Peyton and Andrew, but he's got to be the best version of Anthony Richardson that we've seen for him to get more than just this year.
And I want to get into Anthony Richardson specifically. As you know, my co-host been a Florida alum, just like Anthony Richardson is. And let's just call it what it is, Destin. I know you're around the team. You're a beat writer. You may not be able to tell us exactly in no uncertain terms, but I don't believe Chris Ballard when he says this is going to be an open competition. I just don't. I think Anthony Richardson is going to be given every opportunity to win this job. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Daniel Jones very well may take the job if he is just playing better and stays healthy. That very well might happen. But Anthony Richardson was invested too high of a pick at number 4 overall just to see them all of a sudden just drop him. Even if a guy like Daniel Jones is doing pretty good football. I know he has the injuries. He has the thing last year with the, I'm tired, sub me out incident. But talk to me about the quarterback competition that you see developing between these two guys come training camp and into the preseason.
I think it really depends on what your definition of open competition is. I mean, to me, when I hear open competition, and that's how I'm going to portray it, I would like to believe that it's a 50-50 shot. Like these guys are entering camp on the same pedestal, the same wavelength in terms of where they're starting. I'm with you, Ryan. I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it that that's the case. I do believe that they're going to enter training camp, and the quarterback that plays the best in training camp and looks the best and runs the offense and gains the respect and the confidence of this locker room is going to start week 1. But what I don't believe is I don't believe they're entering with Richardson and Daniel Jones here. I believe they know as much as we all know that what's best for them is that Anthony Richardson goes out there and takes this job, grabs it by the horns, and just rides. And I think it's probably more of a Richardson's here and Jones is here. Now, can Jones make up the root ground? It's possible. And I think the big thing here is, and I like Daniel Jones more than most people do. I think he has done some solid things in the NFL. I think if he ends up being a backup, he's going to be automatically one of the top backups in the NFL right away. Whereas I think the narrative around him is that this guy sucks. I don't think that's the case. But I feel like if Anthony Richardson cannot win this training camp battle against Daniel Jones, I think it's going to finally give the Colts the answer of this guy's doesn't have what it takes to be our franchise quarterback. And that'll help them move on, because what my big thing over the last 2 years really is I think it is worse for the Colts or any organization that's going through this quarterback yes or no situation is if you do not have an answer to that question, can this guy be our franchise quarterback? That's worse than the answer being no. Because if you know the answer is no, you can close the book, turn the page, and figure out what that answer is going to be. But if you don't know the answer, you're just going to be stuck in limbo, and that's kind of where the Colts have been.
Even sticking with Anthony Richardson, though, it used to be a time quarterback gets drafted high, he gets time. Like he gets time to the people. No one wants to talk about Peyton Manning's first year in NFL. He had Marshall Faulk, and it wasn't good, but you knew what was coming. What is Anthony Richardson getting an unfair shake because of C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels? You got these quarterbacks coming out of college and they ready to go. Anthony Richardson is a physical freak, and I said this when he got drafted. I go, look, man, sometimes 6'4", 245 can jump out the gym. It's great, but we need you to play quarterback. Do you think, Destin, him seeing Joe Flacco saying, look, man, Joe, what is he, 30 years older than Anthony Richardson, mama? I don't know if that had to be put out there, but he is. Do you think it's because of the young quarterbacks around him that he's getting judged by, or is it just his ceiling is so high? If he could put it together, people just expecting to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it becomes more and more regular in the NFL nowadays that you draft a guy high, you want him on the field, right? Is that always the best case and best thing for those quarterbacks? Probably not. And I think the Colts said all the right things after drafting Anthony, that this was going to take some time. They were warning the fan base, warning beat writers to be patient with this kid. And I think that's the correct mindset and a good thing to get in front of. But the problem is they haven't really acted that way, which is kind of what you're talking about, Ben. Last year, obviously, we see everything go down and they bench him for a few weeks for Joe Flacco. And to me, that was just such a malpractice in use of what they were going through, because they told us all year long that obviously their goal was to make the playoffs, but their overall goal of who was going to be quarterback one was not just who gives them the best chance, quote unquote, to win on game day, in terms of Richardson going out there and developing, because they knew that he needed the reps. I mean, this is a kid that barely got to play at Florida before getting drafted, especially in comparison to other first-round quarterback selections. So when you're looking at that and they kind of just flip it on its head and just change the narrative around it just in the middle of a season like that, I don't think it does anybody a good service. I don't think they did well by Richardson. I don't think they did well by Joe Flacco, putting him in that situation with that tag on him that we're going to win games because Joe Flacco is under center now. I don't think anyone was put in a good situation there. And, I mean, we saw it. They flip-flopped again 3 weeks later, and Richardson's put back in the starting lineup. And we're just supposed to believe it wasn't as a result of the tap-out play. I call a spade, guys. And to me, when that happens right after that, and it's a 3 weeks thing and not a rest of the year thing, sounds a lot like a punishment to me. But you can call it whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I definitely think the Colts have really dropped the ball there. And we'll see how this training camp and this year works out.
Let's go back to the other side of the ball. Let's start on that side of the ball because I don't think we went over there. Defensive side, you bring in Lou Anarumo from the Cincinnati Bengals, who got let go after, I'm just going to call it what it is, a scapegoat season in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow did a really good job, and yet someone had to be held accountable, and it ended up being Lou Anarumo and that defense not holding up their end of the bargain. So comes over to Cincinnati. I keep saying Cincinnati. Comes over to Indianapolis. New defensive coordinator here for Indianapolis. Shane Steichen, obviously still coordinating the offense. Thoughts on Lou's hiring, and what are you expecting from this defense in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing that you start with is just how drastic of a change the Colts are going from the Gus Bradley style to a Lou Anarumo style. Very different philosophies, very different objectives in terms of game day. Gus Bradley's system really goes out there and just allows teams to have the easy, the medium, and takes away the long ball and just really dares quarterbacks to make mistakes. Lou Anarumo doesn't dare quarterbacks to make mistakes. He wants to put them in position to make mistakes. He's more aggressive in terms of the diversity in coverage usage. He's going to be a guy that dials up a little bit more blitzes than we saw in terms of what Gus was doing, with being one of the lowest in the NFL with Gus, and Gus being a pretty heavy cover 3 Tampa 2 style. And we're going to see just a little bit more diversity with Lou, because Lou's big thing is he wants to confuse quarterbacks. He doesn't want quarterbacks to ever be comfortable. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think a lot of these players that are back, it's going to feel like a brand new system, because it is. And they're going to have to be starting from pretty much the same area that a lot of these draft picks and these free agency signings that are coming in are as well, which can be a good thing, or it can lead to some early season struggles. So I guess we'll see how that works out.
Now, this AFC South has gotten really, really competitive really, really quickly. When you're talking about these receivers, a guy that I was very intrigued that you guys got, Charvarius Ward. I mean, obviously he dealt with a lot in San Francisco, both on the field and obviously personally. You talk about make a mistake. You talk about a guy that's very aggressive, a guy that brings a Super Bowl pedigree, has played with 2 very, very good organizations, but he's back in the state of Tennessee. Middle Tennessee State doesn't get enough credit for the type of DBs. Kevin Byard, really, really good players. What does a guy like Charvarius Ward bring to a defense, like you said, is going to have to figure out his identity? But you don't have to figure out what you got with a guy who's he's definitely a one-on-one corner, long, could definitely take away the deep ball. What does Charvarius bring to a defense that's trying to find its own identity?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into the offseason, I think it was easy for those that cover the team to kind of make our list of free agents and who's the best fit. And just about anybody who covers the Colts, I think you would have seen Charvarius Ward near the top, if not the top free agency target. From conversations I've had with people in the building, I believe Charvarius Ward was their number 1 free agency target. And I think it has a lot to do with what I was talking about earlier and just how drastic of a change they're going to be on the back end in this new defense, and needing somebody who is intelligent enough, has experience switching in terms of coverages from man to zone. And I think it gives somebody that Lou hasn't had really since he's become a defensive coordinator, where he's going to have a corner that is not only confident in himself, but the DC is going to be confident enough to allow him to travel with opposing teams' top receivers. The Colts haven't had that since Vontae Davis. And that's a drastic thing that, I mean, not a lot of DCs do as much anymore in the NFL. And that has to do with how good the number 2 receiver on some teams are nowadays, I'm sure. But having somebody that Lou's already been out there saying he has confidence in Ward to do that, and Ward, anybody that knows him knows how confident he is himself, and he's ready to go right now if you had to lace the cleats up. So I think that's going to be a really exciting element, and I think that helps not only raise the floor in terms of where they're going to be week one in installing this new defense, but I think also raising the ceiling, because I think it gives them a true number one corner, something they've been looking for a long time.
Last week, Dustin, we did kind of our early predictions here on this podcast for our playoffs. We did 7 teams for each conference, and we didn't seed them in order. We just kind of, here's our gut 7 teams kind of feeling in May. Feel free to change those in August, obviously. So not putting a lot of stock into what we did. However, I said the Colts as one of my 7. So prove me right here when I ask you this question. Can the Colts be a playoff team in 2025? And if the answer is yes, how do they get there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is yes. They can be a playoff team. Does that mean that they should be betting favorite to be a top 7 team in the AFC at this moment? No, I think they got some things to prove in training camp still. But I think the big thing to know that gives you a little bit of belief in it, you look at the last 2 years. They've had a punching chance in the last 3 weeks, no matter how you wrap it around. And 2 years ago, obviously, one play away from not only punching your ticket to the playoffs, but winning the AFC South with Gardner Minshew under center. It's not a shot at Gardner Minshew. That's not a shot at Gardner Minshew, but just a reality of the situation. And they obviously, that play doesn't go their way. Last year, they are a couple crazy mistakes in Denver away from a playoff spot as well, just a few weeks before the end of the year. And Jonathan Taylor fumbles it at the 1-yard line, and a couple other mistakes there do them in that game. And they, as much bad that's happened, as much question marks have been around, is Anthony Richardson the guy? The last 2 years, the Colts have been in the conversation near the end of the season, playing meaningful football in weeks 14 through around 17 or maybe 18, depending on 2 years ago. So now you're bringing in a new defense, a more aggressive defense, a defense that I think, in my opinion, is a better fit for what the NFL is today in Lou Anarumo's system opposed to Gus Bradley's system. And I think you are going to have an improved defense. The offense is going to be back. And I think at worst, I mean, I don't see a way that the quarterback position is worse this year than it was last year, whether it's Anthony Richardson taking a step forward or, as I said earlier, some people might disagree. I think Daniel Jones is a better fit for Shane Steichen's offense than we saw in Joe Flacco. Having a quarterback and going from Anthony Richardson to Joe Flacco, and how drastic of a change that is in terms of mobility in the pocket, in terms of play style in general. Like, it's such a drastic change, and I think it impacted a lot of things. So I think having it to where even if Richardson doesn't win the job, I feel more confident that the Colts are a better football team with Daniel Jones under center than they were with Gardner Minshew, than they were with Joe Flacco. And if that's the case, they've had a punching chance the last 2 years. And if they've improved on defense, if their quarterback situation on paper is at least better than the last 2 years, and if Anthony Richardson takes the jump significantly better, I think they definitely should be in consideration.
Now you mentioned him. I mean, obviously, when you hear running backs in the league, everybody gonna go Saquon, as they should. Everybody gonna talk about, Derrick Henry, as they should. Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is a phenomenal football player. Do you think it's because it's the quarterback situation has been so? Because when he's good, he's real good. Like, now he does something. The fumble, you like, come on, like Jonathan. Like, that's uncanny of him. How much better can Jonathan Taylor be if the quarterback position is just stable? Because you know what you got in Jonathan, right, Destin? But when I know, if I'm Jonathan, I'm saying, I don't know how my quarterback's going. I'm not going to say it to the media. These are pros. But he goes, all right, Anthony, like, you all right today? All right, Joe, you all right? He's seen how much better can a Jonathan Taylor be, which they're going to hopefully run the offense through him to open up the passing game. But how much better is a Jonathan Taylor when he can relax, play, and know that the quarterback going to do their part as well as the rest of the offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jonathan has been one of the most stable running backs in the NFL over these last 3 to 4 years. Now, obviously, the Saquon explosion last year, the Derrick Henry and Lamar aspect, like, that's going to take the headlines on a position where it doesn't sell in terms of headlines, right? Running backs are not going to be something that are talked about Monday through Friday on all of these sports shows more than they have to. And if they're already talking about Saquon, they're already talking about Derrick Henry, is there really much else to talk about that they're going to give their time to at the running back position? But I think Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he's proven that he's been up there in comparison to those guys in these last few years. I think the big drop off, and I talked about it earlier with how drastic the change of play and offense happened when you go from Richardson to Flacco, the run game plummeted because teams just didn't fear Joe Flacco leaving the pocket at all. Where when Richardson's in the game, love him, hate him, you could think he's the worst quarterback in football. Defenses are terrified when Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor are in the backfield because you just don't know who's going to get the ball, and whoever has the ball on the run can beat you. Richardson is able to get to the corner better than almost any quarterback in the NFL, not named Lamar Jackson, over the last 2 years. And I think that aspect has made Jonathan Taylor so much more explosive because teams can't hone in on him. And I'm really excited to see what this year goes because, like I said earlier, I think Daniel Jones is a better fit than what we saw with Joe Flacco and Gardner Minshew, to where even if Richardson wins the job and Jones plays an injury relief, or if Jones wins the job, I think there's a quarterback that is mobile enough to keep defenses honest. And when that has been the case, Jonathan Taylor makes defense pay.
Let's talk about A.D. Mitchell going into year 2 and Tyler Warren, the rookie out of Penn State. They're selected early in this first round of the last 2 months ago now draft. Do you think, obviously we talked about Anthony Richardson, his ceiling, what the trajectory of the franchise could be with him performing like a Peyton Manning, like an Andrew Luck, and obviously potentially saving the jobs of Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen. But how can Tyler Warren as a rookie step into his role? A.D. Mitchell is someone I was really impressed with at last year as a rookie. My Panthers, I was hoping would get him. Obviously that did not happen. He was a very good player for the Colts. What do you think his development into year 2 will look like, and then Tyler Warren's role as a rookie?
Yeah, I'll start with AD. Really interesting case study his first year. Not a very productive player. Kind of found himself 4th on the depth chart in terms of Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr. Played significantly more snaps than the young guy. Mitchell does the thing that most receivers struggle at when they get into the NFL and make that jump, which is creating separation. He created separation at a high rate as a rookie. He struggled with drops, which he did not struggle with in college, which was shocking. And I think there was a little bit of the moment being a little bit too big for the rookie, where certain moments would come and he would kind of shy away from contact. And I think those things are things you have to get coached out of. I know the team is very high on what he can be. And I mean, just go watch the 2 Texans games, and he doesn't come away with crazy stats by any means. But if you just focus in on A.D. Mitchell versus Derek Stingley, who just became one of the most highest paid corners in the NFL for a reason, you hone in on that matchup. And I would bet good money that Derek Stingley was not happy with his 2 performances in those games, because A.D. Mitchell made him look foolish a couple of times. Mitchell is a very skilled route runner. If he can put it all together, he can be a really big weapon in the NFL. But he's going to have to get some of the mental side of the NFL and of this level of football down. But Reggie Wayne, his receiver coach, obviously one of the best receivers to ever suit up for the Colts, has a lot of belief in him. So I'm excited to see what year 2 looks like. And then going to Tyler Warren, the Colts were pumped. I think anybody who saw the reaction in the draft room, anybody that did mock drafts throughout the year, I think Tyler Warren to Indianapolis had to have been one of the most chalk picks that was mocked all year long. But the big question all year was, would he get there? And will they have to trade up? So landing him without having to trade up, I think they felt like they hit a home run. They've been looking for a consistent tight end for quite some time. Last year, having one of the worst, somehow did not rank 32nd in the NFL last year in terms of production, which I have no idea how. Not a single tight end not a single tight end on the Colts last year had over 170 yards. And when you have a young quarterback, like not having any form of safety blanket at that position, I said it earlier, it felt like malpractice in terms of putting a quarterback in position to succeed. I think we saw what Tyler Warren can be at Penn State and how successful he was at making Bo Allen's job easier. And I think that's going to be a big thing for him because he's going to be a day one starter. I think a lot of people make that question with rookies. Will they throw him into the fire? Will they not? The Colts don't have a choice. I'm not really sure how they could make him not start week one with what the room is. Mo Cox is a seasoned veteran and a really good blocker. My guess is in 2 tight end sets. He'll be the second guy out there. But Tyler Warren's going to be the guy there, and they're really pumped to get him.
I've never seen a tight end get used. They let Tyler Warren do everything. Like literally. At Penn State, what do you want to do? They let him run the ball, throw the ball, everything. They showcase everything he could do or the tight end could do, period. But you mentioned, he's going to be a day one starter in Warren. How dangerous can he be in an offense that, like we said, we get Pittman, we get Mitchell and what you guys got on the outside, even in the slot. But you talk about coming to the league, changing the whole – these tight ends are walking into the league, changing the whole dynamic of the teams and the offenses. How dynamic could a guy like Tyler Warren be, especially in the AFC South, that they got good defense in the AFC South. They don't got linebackers there ain't no Fred Warners in the AFC South. How dangerous can this young man be? Because the last great one was Dallas Clark, Mr. No Gloves himself. How can a Tyler – because people talk about who you get compared to. I don't know if that's fair to him to compare anybody to Dallas Clark, but how dangerous can a guy like Warren be in an offense that whether it's Richardson or Jones, they got to be looking at that young and saying, man, I could do a lot. I could do a lot with 6'5", 250 running down the seam.
Yeah, so I think one of my favorite quotes that I got all draft cycle, I was talking to an NFL scout at the Senior Bowl in person, just talking about the draft class, even guys that weren't at the Senior Bowl. We started talking about Tyler Warren and just how his role at Penn State was just so vast. And the quote he gave me was, he had to have an entire closet on his own to carry all the hats that Penn State made him wear in that offense. And it's accurate. Like when you go back and look at Penn State's offense, the key that everyone liked to talk about is like how little their receivers were used. And the reason for that was because Tyler Warren was looked at as their number one receiver. That is how defenses treated him. That's how Penn State treated him. And on top of being their number one receiving target, he was turned into a wildcat option. He was turned into somebody that lined up at fullback. He turned into somebody that was used as an extra sixth blocker in line. Like there was just so many different things that happened this past year with Tyler Warren that just makes you think, man, like, what is he going to be in the NFL? And I think him landing with a guy like Shane Steichen, who has shown the ability to get kind of creative with how he uses those tight ends in terms of with Philly, in terms of with San Diego, I guess, when he was there with the Chargers. There's just so much questions, I guess, of like what that role is going to be. But I can guarantee you it's going to be a step in the right direction after what we saw at tight end last year for the Colts.
Last one from me, Destin, before I get there. Were you on the team covering the beat before 2022 by chance?
So like I've been covering the team full time since 22. I've been covering the team on my own, no matter what, since 2019.
Okay. So just on a personal note, before I get to my last question, one of the guys that I know from back in my high school days / college, Nyheim Hines. I grew up not with him, but I know people who grew up with him. So I was really good to see him on the Colts and back in the day. I know he's obviously not there anymore, but just a personal shout out to him. I know he did some good things there before a couple of injuries got in his way. Who is the biggest challenger? Last question here. Excuse me. Who is the biggest challenger to the Colts in this division? Not named the Texans. I know you want to say the Texans, but because we all think Texans Colts that's going to be a good game. Is it Jacksonville or is it Tennessee that's going to give the Colts kind of that? Let's assume we're playing for second, because most people are going to assume for now the Colts are playing for second behind Houston. Who is going to be that big competitor that the Colts are going to have to watch out for? Is it Houston or Jacksonville or Tennessee?
Yeah. So I'm going to go Jacksonville. And a lot of that just has to do – I'm a Cam Ward fan. I want that to be said first and foremost. I've watched Cam Ward for multiple years. I was one of those weirdos that was begging for film of him in Incarnate Word multiple years ago before he transfers to Washington State. So Cam Ward is somebody that I have a lot of belief in. But I think the overall roster – that Jacksonville has had over the last couple of years, I think is just more talented. And I think the coaching errors that kind of plagued them over the last couple of years, I'm really interested to see what Liam Cohen looks like there and what he brings with a Trevor Lawrence, with a two-way superstar and Travis Hunter. I think the roster as a whole is better in Jacksonville. And I think Cam Ward is going to be a good step in the right direction for Tennessee. But I think there's just so many different holes that I think they know this too. I don't think this is a 1 year fix in terms of going from the number one pick to the playoffs. And you don't see that very often anyway. But I think Jacksonville's closer than Tennessee is right now.
My last question as well, Destin. You mentioned Reggie Wayne being a receivers coach. I know played against Reggie Wayne. Cato June being the assistant linebacker, played against Cato. How important is it having guys who didn't just play for the Colts? They played for the Super Bowl winning coach, the glory years. Because most of the time, yes, these players are way too young. They call Peyton Manning Mr. Manning because we old enough to be. I'm old enough to be some of these guys' parents. What is it like having guys who they ain't just talking about the game plan? They say, listen, they get to say, man, back when we played, with Dwight Freeney and, oh my God, Bob Sanders and these guys. How was it having guys like Reggie Wayne, for which I don't know what's going on with the Hall of Fame committee? They can't see. We know Marvin Harrison, we get it. Reggie Wayne was cheat code. That's how good Reggie Wayne was. But how incredible is it having former coach who played at a high level, played for Super Bowls, who not just can teach the game, but can tell these guys, listen, bro, when Indy is good, this city is rocking.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to be able to have posters of the glory days in the team building and be able to put the DVD on and watch the 2006 Super Bowl. I think that's one thing you can do. But I think when you have guys in building, coaches on staff that lived it, that were a part of it, that were big parts of it, like Reggie Wayne, like Cato, I think that's huge, right? I think they're able to not only talk about where they've been, but just be able to share their experiences, share what they did as players to get to that level. And I'm with you. I don't understand how Reggie Wayne is still a guy looking and waiting to be in the Hall of Fame. I think there's been a lot of he played with some great players, but those guys played with a great player in Reggie Wayne, and I think having Reggie Wayne as the receivers coach is an invaluable thing. And I think you hear these young receivers talk about it all the time, about being able to pick Reggie's brain and what Reggie was able to do as a former first-round pick out of Miami. He's played at a high level at all stages. And he was a guy that came in with expectations, met those, and surpassed those. And he gets to talk to these guys who are all looking to do similar things. I think it's an invaluable thing to have. And I think as we get further and further away from those teams, those Peyton Manning-led teams, and obviously with the passing of Jim Irsay, there's just going to be more and more change in terms of this organization. I think it's incredible that they have some form of a reminder of what those teams were. And like you said, what this city was like during those teams. Because I think these young players, knowing those kind of things, it just helps them strive to get as close to that mountaintop as you can.
And Destin, I just want to say this. That The Indianapolis Colts, y'all mascot. I'm not gonna catch him. If I ever caught him in the street, which I wouldn't, I'm gonna physically fight him. I cannot stand him. Listen, I can't stand the Jaguar. I don't even know what a Texan is.
Blue is one of a kind. Blue is one of a kind.
Every time we played, y'all, in my mind, this probably didn't happen this way. To me, I think he sought me out. He would look at me. I would go like this. I said, you know, because he don't talk. So if I ever catch the Indianapolis Colt, if I'm in Naptown, I don't know why I would be there, and he just happened to be walking down the street with his security, I'm gonna dive.
You're coming to the combine. Man. You're coming to the combine. That's what.
No. Listen, I'm diving on the Indianapolis Colt. The only mascot I can't stand more than him is Jacksonville, the Jaguar down there with free, because he got them hamburger helper hands. For those of you who know what hamburger helper is, but no, Destin, man, we appreciate you taking the time. And when Smitty told me you were gonna come on, I'm like you. I am biased when it comes to Anthony Richardson. I can say that. Yes, I am. But I told Anthony, man, sometimes you don't want to look like that. Sometimes you don't want to be that athletic because people can't unsee it once they see it. You throwing it to the top of the freaking indoor facility because Will Levis did it. You're doing backwards flips. Like sometimes we know how athletic you are, but the thing is, now they're saying, hey man, I told Smitty this, just play 17 games. Just play a whole season first. Because unless he plays a whole season, we don't know. We just don't. And play a whole season, put pressure on Houston. And then Indy can be like, okay, because until then, it's going to be, like I said, I think Anthony Richardson, man, if he could, I've never seen him put it all together because he sample size of Florida. If he puts it all together, I don't think the league can deal with a player who says, I don't got to be Superman every play. No. You got Jonathan right there, right? You just got to be super when needed. Clark Kent only did this 3-4 times a movie. He ain't do it every scene. So I think that's the thing about Anthony is just calm down. You know, Vernell Brown, the guy that I played with at Florida, I know that's his like manager right hand man. I know Vernell is telling him, Anthony, just breathe, take the feedback / criticism, and go play. Just go play, and we'll see what happens.
I think the big thing that a lot of people forget when it comes to Anthony, I think it comes to a lot of young players, like the kid's 22 years old still. Like this kid is
stunning. This
kid is 22 years old. I don't even want to imagine what I would have been like if I was given this much responsibility and this much expectations at 22 years old. I'll tell you, it wouldn't have worked out well for anybody, for me. And I think the big thing for Anthony, man, is like you're looking at all these guys getting drafted, and he's younger than a lot of them being drafted in 2024 even. And I think that this is going to be – I mean, it's a big year for him. Like this is year 3. I think year 3 is when you circle it for a lot of young players that if you can't give me an answer by then, a lot of teams just feel like they have to move on. And that's just the nature of the business. But I have a hard time writing off a kid that has this much potential and has shown it in games at times. He's had big moments in the NFL already. His throw against Houston week 1 of this past season, in all of my time covering the NFL, I still think is the single best throw I've ever seen. In terms of his spinning off a sack, throwing it 75 yards off his back foot into Alec Pierce's chest. Like, I think that's the single best throw I've ever watched live. I really do. And you can count the amount of quarterbacks that have that ability to make that play on one hand. Now, you have that next level ability. Now show me what you can do on a consistent basis and hit the layups. And I think the kid has talent. And we'll see if he's able to put it all together this year. But I'm not going to be getting a GM job offer anytime soon. I know that about myself. I do. But if I was a GM and I had to bet my job on taking a quarterback, Anthony's the kind of quarterback it'd be on. Like, you look at that kind of potential, I would rather miss on that kind of quarterback than miss on drafting a guy that I'm going to have to pay $50 million a year to be just the 17th, 16th best quarterback in the NFL. And that may be somebody in San Francisco. That may be a couple other quarterbacks that I feel that way about. But Anthony's the style of quarterback that I'd probably bet on in terms of that. Because if I'd rather miss there than miss on somebody else.
last one for you, which is just for you. Where can people find your work, and tell us about all that you're doing for the Colts?
Yep. So I cover the Indianapolis Colts and the NFL draft process for AtoZSports. So you can find all of it there at AtoZSports/Indianapolis. And then during the NFL draft process, which we just finished up. So it'll be a little bit of time before I have to dive fully into that again. But that'll be there as well. And you can find me on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it nowadays, at the Destin Adams. And it's not because I'm full of myself. It's because whoever has at Destin Adams just won't give it up. I'd like that ad if I could, but I had to settle on at the Destin Adams on X.
Well, Destin, it was so great to have you on here on Winning the Division with Ben and myself, and we'll love to have you back on maybe during the season when those Colts are riding high and Anthony's got that job and proving my prediction here in May right come November, December timeframe. We'll have to have you back on later on.
No, appreciate you guys for having me, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Destin. And that was the Destin Adams, as he calls himself on X, from AtoZSports NFL Colts beat writer. Ben, I did that. I booked him specifically because I wanted to talk about Anthony Richardson. I know you enjoy talking AR. The Colts are a team I think is on the rise. I said this last week in our predictions, my early predictions for May. I like the Colts this year. I really do. I think if Anthony Richardson can get it together, it's going to be quite the show.
Consistency. And I think, and Anthony Richardson actually 23. He just turned 23 on May 22nd, which is my son's birthday as well. So that's a great day to be born. We forget about that though, right, Smith? 23 years old. There are guys getting drafted that are older, right, than Anthony Richardson. Cam Ward, I think, is older than Anthony Richardson, and he just got drafted. I think sometimes, though, Smitty, it's like what we be saying about Bryce. When we seen it, just turn it on, Bryce. Let's go out there and be consistent. Now, I do agree with what he said about the punishment when he said, I'm tired. They benched him for 3 games. Because it's like Bryce got benched to show his, how mentally strong he was. Anthony Richardson, it's like, well, why? If you're going to just bring him back in there. So I am looking forward to watching this young man continue to grow and show, maturity in the National Football League. And like I said, if he can put it all together, that's scary for the AFC. Listen, Anthony Richardson putting it all together, it's like Bryce Young putting it all together. It's going to be their division to lose.
Absolutely.
That's really what it is when someone goes, no, dude, you kind of want to get at him when he's figuring it out. Because when he figures it out and it clicks, it doesn't mean they're going to win every game. It's going to mean they're in every game for 4 quarters. And I think that's the ability. And who was the number 1 pick in that draft? Bryce. Who was the number 4? Anthony Richardson. Who was the number 2? Obviously, CJ Stroud. So those 3 guys are going to be tied to the hip because what they do or don't do in their careers. But I do agree with Destin. The best competition for a guy like Anthony Richardson is a guy who's not as athletic, but who understands the position. Because Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, they're not the same athletic, but you can run the same offense. You don't run the same offense with Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson. So we'll see. It's going to be exciting to see, Smitty. I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, who would have thought? Quarterback battle. And I'm like you, Smitty. It's a QB battle, I guess. But Anthony Richardson, it's more like people talking about 50-50. It's going to be more like 60-40, 70-30 with Anthony Richardson getting the majority of those snaps. But, hey, man, training camp is rapidly approaching. That's why we watch. That's why we cheer. And that's why we look forward to what happens next.
I wanted to do something a little different tonight with our time remaining. I wanted to do AFC tiers since we had a Colts beat writer on. NFC we'll do next week, but I wanted to give kind of us a week to marinate on our Panther Falcons and not get any unbiased and some emotional attachment in there. So I decided to do AFC this week. And then we'll end with overreaction, not an overreaction here at the end. But let's just go through our tiers. And before I start, let me just kind of tell you how I rank these, and then you can tell me if you like my format or if it sucks. I did so we'll say Super Bowl caliber. That's tier 1. I said wild card / division winner type. That's tier 2. Tier 3 is kind of middle of the pack, just 500. And then tier 4 is just bad. Just bad.
Hold on. So you said Super Bowl, you said division winner. What was the third one?
Division winner / wild card. You can put those kind of if you whether you think they're going to be closer to the division or closer to the wild card, one of the two. Number 3 is kind of 500, middle of the pack. Okay. Maybe
and 4 was just bad.
Then bad, just bad.
Okay.
All right. So obviously we're going to go with the. We'll start with bad because I think that's just where we start. We won't talk about the bad as much as
in the AFC, just bad
and just bad, just
all
bad.
Right.
So
okay. This is the best way to do it. Yeah, I'm gonna just go it like this. AFC West, the bad to me, I think it's gonna be the Chargers. Here's why: not because I don't think the Chargers are a bad team. I just think the Chiefs run the West. The Broncos are a playoff caliber team, and I think the Raiders are going to be much improved. So I think the bad is going to be the Chargers. You ain't going to have 4 teams in one division. Now, in the AFC North, do I got to say it? The Browns. It is going to be the Browns. The Browns. I love.
So are you? So you're ranking these bad, not necessarily a bad team, but more just. I was more going for like the tier of just bad being bad, I guess. Or are you saying the Chargers will be that bad?
I think because of the division that they're in, Kansas City is going to win the Broncos. I think, it's that because they're not going to benefit because of that division itself. I think the Chargers.
Okay, I'm with you. Okay, and then Cleveland. Okay, got it. Number 2.
Cleveland. Obviously, look, I love what Mike Vrabel is doing with the Patriots. You got a quarterback that coming off we'll see what happens with it, but I think the Patriots are not. I think they're going to be bad. And look, I love the fact that Destin thinks that the second tier to the Colts are the Jags. I think the Jags are going to be bad, not because they're a bad team, but because Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback. I got to see it, and I've seen it now for 4 or 5 years. I think my bad would be the Chargers, the Browns, the Patriots, and the Jags. For the AFC, they're going to be my bad team. It's bad.
Okay, so essentially what Ben is saying is he thinks these 4 are going to be finishing 4th in the division this year.
I tell you what, you call it bad, I call them bottom feeders. They're going to be my bottom feeders.
All right, we can do it like that, kind of a May prediction of 4 through 1, but we're calling it bad, 500 division Super Bowl.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go Vegas. I still think Vegas is going to be improved, but they're going to still be bad. Pete Carroll's got to establish his culture in year number 1. Brock Bowers can only do so much. Cam Ward and the Titans are going to be bad as well. I think he is going to take a nice step as a rookie, and they're going to be pretty feisty. But I still think they're going to be 5 wins tops. Cleveland, totally in agreement there. There's just not a lot to be positive with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Cleveland. Like
Cleveland's fans are so dedicated, I will say.
The dog pound is serious. They serious.
And then this is I'm not going with New England here. I'm going to go with Miami. Miami is, and I'm not even talking about Tua's health. Tyreek Hill is getting older. He still is in lots of legal trouble. Jalen Ramsey's going to be probably traded by July. Yes, you got Jalen Waddle. Yes, you got Raheem Mostert, but those guys both battle injury concerns. And there's a lot of big questions on that defense as a whole, especially after Jalen Ramsey gets offloaded. There's just a lot more questions than answers in Miami, and until they can prove they're playing in cold weather does not hurt them, whether that's in the playoffs or elsewhere in the regular season, I just don't believe in this team whatsoever. I'm going to go next. My middle of the pack, if you will, for the divisions. I'm going to go Chargers for my AFC West as middle of the pack. I think they're going to be kind of right in. I wouldn't be surprised if they're 9-8. I wouldn't be surprised if they're 7-10. So and if they're 7-10, something really went wrong. But I think 9-8, 10-6. I could have them on my wild card division here, but I'm going to say middle of the pack simply because I think Denver is that much improved, specifically to last year with Bo Nix as a rookie. What he did was very impressive. But Chargers in my middle of the pack for the AFC West. For AFC South, it's going to be Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville, Travis Hunter adds a dynamic element to that offense with Brian Thomas Jr. I think they're going to be improved. I can see 7-8 wins, but not playoffs. Pittsburgh is my AFC North, middle of the pack. Will the Aaron Rodgers please tell us he's finally going there? I think he did. I think he did by saying somebody is going to be playing at Chicago this offseason, or this season rather, and Pittsburgh does play in Chicago, the team that he owns. So I think Aaron Rodgers is telling it. He will be coming to Pittsburgh pretty soon. And then New England is going to be my middle of the pack here. I think they were the Carolina Panthers of 2023. Wins last year. They may get 6 wins this year. But I just can't see double-digit wins or even close to playoffs like some people are saying. Mike Vrabel can work miracles, but he can't work that much of a miracle. I think you're one in Foxborough.
Okay, my 500 team starting with, so I'm gonna start with the South. I think the Titans, because listen, I've seen a lot of Cam Ward, and he's gonna make mistakes, but his rewards are just good enough to where I think they're gonna protect it with what they got on offense. And this division isn't that crazy. It's the Colts, it's the Texans and everybody else. So I think I can see them doing some not Jaden Daniels type stuff, but he's gonna have a lot of Jaden Daniels moments to be able to win games. So I can see them being close to 500. You know who else? In the AFC East, the Jets. Justin Fields is so happy to be out of Pittsburgh. Now he's still gonna live in the same neighborhood, as Russell Wilson, because they both in New York, but one is wearing green and one is wearing blue. But I think the Jets got a shot to be 500. I like Aaron Glenn and what he brings to that mentality of that team. I'm like you though, Smitty, in the AFC North. It's Pittsburgh. I don't care if they got Aaron Rodgers or not. Aaron Rodgers is at this point. Not only is he a shell of himself, Aaron Rodgers he wishy-washy, dysfunctional. Like, dude, if you gonna play football or not? You know who he learned that from? Again, Brett Favre. Brett Favre did the same thing. Retired. Is he gonna play? Is he not gonna play? And my middle of the road team, the AFC West, is the Raiders. I do think that Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty, Pete Carroll, Crosby, Geno, they gonna have a shot to learn. Geno understands what Pete Carroll is trying to do. He's bringing a college atmosphere, as far as up tempo and competing all the time. I think they got a shot. Cause like I said, who else is in the building? Even though Tom Brady's over in the corner now. He's like, look, man, I'm gonna give. I can't play, but I'm gonna give you my little tidbit. So the Raiders, the Steelers, the Jets, and the Titans on my middle of the road. 500 team potentially.
All right, let's go division winners in slash kind of wild card-esque teams. So in the West, I have the Broncos here. I think they can win the division, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think until I see Kansas City take the visible step back with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, I just can't say they're going to win the division. So I'm going to say Broncos, wild card look-alike for this year. Colts are my wild card in the AFC South. I think it can happen with Anthony Richardson. It'll be a gigantic step for him and this organization. It's going to save the jobs of Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen going into year 3. They need him to win badly. And then in the AFC East, I actually had the Jets in my middle of the pack tier, but I have the Jets so because we're doing this exercise in this way, I have them here. But am I confident on it? No, I think they're going to be more middle of the pack tier. I think if I have to put somebody here, I'll put the Jets, but I think it's going to be more like 8-9, 9-8. So that's going to be more maybe a wild card at 9-8, maybe. but I think it's going to be more middle of the pack with the Jets. I think because I had the Dolphins just going down at the bottom, that rose the Jets up. And then in the AFC North, I've got Cincinnati. They could blow in your face at 9-8 like they did last year, and that's considered an off season for them, or they could be 12-4 or 11-6, 12-5, whatever. If Joe Burrow does what he did last year, the defense continues to improve. Problem is, I just don't know where this defense is going to improve with the Sam Hubbard retirement, Trey Hendrickson news, and Von Bell's getting older on the backside, along with some younger safeties back there. There's just not a lot of talent on this defense, and at least ones that are to write home about anyway. And then, so that's my tier 2.
Yeah, my tier 2. I mean, division winners. I mean, even with I think the Colts got a shot to win the division, man. I think they are stable, consistent quarterback play away from putting a lot of pressure on the Texans. The Texans are winning, but they ain't blowing nobody out. Like, they're winning the division, but they ain't scaring nobody. I think this thing about the Dolphins, man, Mike McDaniel has not had one thing consistent since he's been a head coach, and that's consistent D-line play. Everybody gets hurt. Chubb, Phillips. I get you got to deal with Ramsey and all that kind of stuff on the back end, but Tua can run this offense. Waddle, I'm just saying, Jonnu Smith, right? I'm just Tyreek. Just go play football. You're not getting traded. Go play. Stop using social media as a means to talk to the masses. Go play. But I do agree with what you said about the Bengals. I think they can win this. The NFC North is about as crazy as it gets. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Baltimore. I know Cleveland's there, but it's Cleveland. I think Cincinnati, they got the band back together, right? They got everybody on offense. Smitty, if they ran you and me out there on defense, would it matter? No, because you don't know who's on defense for them right now, but they are good enough to win the division. And I like the Broncos. Look, Bo Nix is not being talked about enough for what he did as a rookie, because everybody want to talk about Jaden Daniels, and I get it. Bo Nix played extremely well. At a certain point, people saying offensive rookie of the year, but Jaden Daniels is arguably the best rookie season we've ever seen. But I do got them potentially winning the division for this reason. I don't think the Chiefs care about winning the division anymore. They care about winning Super Bowls. So sure. For me, I give it to the Broncos, I give it to the Bengals, I give it to the Dolphins, and I give it to the Colts if they can get some consistent, stable, healthy quarterback play.
And let's finish with, obviously, the Super Bowl tier. And to be clear, I've only got one of these teams in the Super Bowl tier besides Kansas City. Yeah. That's the Buffalo Bills for me. Them and Kansas City are in this Super Bowl tier in the AFC by themselves. Baltimore is just below them. They're definitely going to win the division, I think. But I don't know if Lamar can get there. He's got to prove it to me. He's got to prove it that he can, whether Mark Andrews drops the ball or not, doesn't matter. They got to prove that they can get there to me. Kansas City, obviously, they've been there, 3 years in a row, 2 years in a row. They're obviously in that one tier by themselves. Buffalo, they are knocking on the doorstep if everybody stays healthy. Josh Allen and the company can get there this year. They very well might get there this year. And then the Texans, they will win this division, I think. But I don't have them Super Bowl worthy because there's still some holes on this roster despite Willie Anderson doing what he does on defense. The offensive line was so bad last year. C.J. Stroud took a step back. Bobby Slowick got fired. I cannot see them Super Bowl caliber this year. So I have them in my division winner category specifically because I think they're going to win the division, but I don't see them as Super Bowl worthy.
Yeah, I got Texans as my Super Bowl winner as well. I got the Bills and the Ravens and the Chiefs. I got the Chiefs and the Ravens as my Super Bowl contender for this reason why. Josh Allen is asked to do so much. And when the offensive coordinator or Sean McDermott come out and say, oh, dude, we can win with anybody as long as we got Josh. That's not a good thing because sometimes Josh knows that. Josh knows, dude, I can't have – look, the best teams mean – my best player cannot have a good game and we can win. Buffalo can't do that.
Right.
Josh Allen cannot have a bad game and they win. Lamar Jackson can do that. And Patrick Mahomes can do that. Now, the Texans can win if CJ Stroud have a bad game, but their team isn't good enough to beat Kansas City, to beat Buffalo, to beat Baltimore, if they indeed met in the playoffs or the AFC Championship game. So, yeah, I agree. I agree with Kansas City, but I think Lamar – because here's the thing. I could be wrong, but I think Josh Allen is the first second-team All-Pro in NFL history to win the MVP. I don't think that's ever happened. Usually, the first-team All-Pro has the best shot to win the MVP. I know that was last year, and I got to move on. But I think – but it's like we were saying, Malachi Starks, a Raven? Because the thing about the Ravens defense is the opposite of Cincinnati. Not only do you know who they are, they play well. Now, when they start doing crazy stuff, so for me, Kansas City is the usual suspects for me because they just expect to get there because they got, Patrick Mahomes, because they got Chris Jones, because they got Big Red and Andy Reid, because they got Travis Kelce, right? Because because they making it to the Super Bowl with or without Tyreek Hill, with or without good receiver play or consistent receiver play. But I think for Baltimore, they got it all. And you know what they really got? They got a brand new contract for Derrick Henry. See, here's the thing. Lean on Derrick Henry because that's what he's built for. And obviously you want Lamar. So I think it's Baltimore. I think it's Kansas City. I think the Bills are good enough, but I think the Bills will run out of gas against the Kansas City. I think Baltimore is more built to beat them in the AFC Championship game. But we will see. We will see.
And then I want to end the podcast tonight. Ben, thank you so much for helping me with those tiers. We'll get the NFC next week. I want to end this podcast with my normal overreaction or not an overreaction. I bring this back. I won't be doing this obviously every week, but I just when kind of I feel kind of some news worth. This is basically an extension of First Things First, but with some of the headlines, I just kind of create some reactions or overreactions kind of to some of the headlines. And some of them make me sound crazy, and that's okay. Number one, Brock Purdy needs to win a Super Bowl in order to make this deal happen. Basically worthwhile for the 49ers.
No, you don't. I mean, it would be icing on the cake because he's doing something as the last pick in the draft, something we've never seen. And let me say this. So everybody that says, well, he's only good because the team was good. And isn't that most players? Isn't most players good because the team around him is good? Now, is he the best player on the team? No. Is he the second best? Nope. Third best? Nope. He's probably the 10th best player on the team. But I think it's validation for John Lynch. Because for those who don't know, in the 2017 draft that had Patrick Mahomes in it, the reason why the San Francisco 49ers didn't even scout him is because they thought that Kirk Cousins, who was going to be a free agent, was going to come to San Francisco. He ended up going to Minnesota. So they didn't even scout him. They got another quarterback in that draft, and because they got him, they got a compository pick or something, they end up getting Mr. Irrelevant. Who they end up drafting with that guy? That would be A1 Brock Purdy. So, I mean, yes, it would validate it, Smitty, but I think that it shows how great of an organization San Francisco is because we have completely forgot that Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. That's how well he's played. He's gone to 2 NFC Championship games, 1 Super Bowl, lost against Kansas City. Well, that's most teams. Only 2 teams have lost, 2 teams have beat Kansas City, right? And that would be Tom Brady and Jalen Hurts. That's who beat them in the Super Bowl. So it's not like slouches are beating them. But yes, I do agree. Brock Purdy has more than earned his contract. Took a pay cut, as we mentioned when he first came on, to be able to get more pieces. But yeah, if he does indeed win it, what they gonna say now? I mean, seriously, if he wins it, we're talking about one of the greatest stories and careers in football history when you talk about where he started. So hey, man, I'm here for it. I'm definitely here for it.
All right, and I'm when I do this from now on, I'm going to give you 3. So that was number 1. Number 2, tush push was the right move, keeping it, and it's going to be the Eagles when they play their first game of the year. They are going to run the tush push for like the first 5 plays just to stick it to. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know about that part, but keeping the tush push was the right move by the NFL and the voters.
Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, went on a rant at the owners' meetings. because he thought they were going to vote it out. So he said, let me tell you how I feel about it. Jason Kelce was there talking about how it's not harmful at all. And then the NFL did the unthinkable. They did the right thing. They didn't let Sean McDermott and Buffalo off the hook. They didn't let, Green Bay off the hook. They voted that bad boy in. Ooh. If you got to play Philly, look out. Because if we really want to be petty about it, they can run it every play and just inch down the field. I like that the NFL voted it in, Smitty, because not just petty, man. Isn't the NFL supposed to be about, you're supposed to have plays you can't stop, plays you got a game plan for, plays that you know is coming. It's the greatest quarterback sneak ever invented. Ever. But here's the thing. Now that it's here, hopefully here to stay, you're going to have a whole game plan coming off the tush push. Oh, you better tell your defense to get ready, because we're going to have bootlegs, play actions, RPOs. But great job, NFL. Jeffrey Lurie got to go up there and speak his piece. And they say he said it and left the room because he thought they were going to vote it out. And just imagine him saying, hey, man, it's here. What? They voted in. So great job, NFL, man. I'm usually talking trash about y'all, but sometimes the good guy does finish strong. He don't finish last. He finished with his chest out. Congratulations to the league, but congratulations to the Eagles specifically.
And then finally, the Buffalo Bills are going to be the last undefeated team in the NFL this season before they lose a game. And I specifically don't think they're going to lose until November 2nd against the Chiefs or later. So let me give you the games. And this is assuming they obviously win Sunday night against the Ravens to start the season.
Okay.
I'll preface this. So if they beat the Ravens to start the year, they will not have a game they will not have an L on their schedule until at least November. So here's the games after the Ravens: Jets, Dolphins, Saints, Patriots, Falcons, Panthers.
I mean, let me say this. On paper, Buffalo is better than all those teams you just mentioned. On paper. How much better is Bryce going to be at that point? How comfortable is he going to be at that point?
Same with Penix.
And remember this. The Saints ain't got nothing to lose. They could throw everything they got at you, right? The Jets got a Justin Fields who's actually happy to be, in New York and he get a chance to play real football. He ain't gonna play the first 4 weeks of the season, look good, go 3-1 and get benched. It sounds like they should be undefeated at that time, Smitty, but that ain't how the NFL works. And for me, somebody's gonna give them an L, maybe even 2 L's in that stretch. It's not gonna be because that team is better than Buffalo. It's gonna be because that team played better that day than Buffalo. Like I said, I'm not on the Panthers train. I'm on the Bryce Young train. I just think they're going to be playing for something different, man. Bryce Young had to go through the ringer. He didn't inherit a team like Josh Allen did. Let's not act like Josh Allen didn't inherit a really, really good squad when he got to Buffalo. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, that was proper reaction or overreaction. And before we get out of here, remember to rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Here on Winning the Division, we will be back with you next week for NFC tiers. We might have another guest. We'll see. Stay tuned for that. And give us your questions, your comments, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing and things you want us to talk about as we get into the doldrums of this offseason here in OTAs, mini camps starting up here pretty shortly. But for Ben Troupe, I am Ryan Smith. Remember, you are either just in the division or you are winning the division. This is Winning the Division, episode 43. We will see you guys next week.